service request out there. Oh, thank you, Janice. You'll be able to see every service request out there. Let me back up since the recording started. October 3rd, we're moving to the new service request portal. So providers will have to log into the portal to see service requests. You'll have to register, and you need to send an email to us saying that you're interested, and we send out the information, what needs to be included. Marcy, can you refresh my memory? What do people need to send us in that request?
Their address, their telephone number, the email address, and the names of their contact people. Let me just.
Yeah, and then what'll happen is you'll get an email that will take you to the portal, and then you'll set up your new password, and you'll use your email address as your username. But I don't want to get too much further ahead of that without Anthony going through it, but that is going to be the new system again, October 3rd. And if you haven't sent us an email saying you want to register for it, you won't be able to see service requests. So Anthony runs the software company that we are using for the portal. So Anthony, it's to you.
Okay. Morning, everybody. Yeah, as Mitch said, we built the software that you're going to be transitioning over so you can, look at all the cases that are out there and that are available. So I'm going to go through just real quick overview of some things, kind of a mixture. I'll go through some slides, and then I'm going to actually show you some examples of what it's going to look like when the system is running as well once you get logged in. To add a little bit to what Mitch said about the access to the system, I believe that there is a decent number of providers already entered into the system with users. And shortly after the meeting, you'll be getting an email from the system. It's going to come out. I think it's from Montgomery County Board of DD.org. It'll come from an email with that if you're in the system with your initial username and your password. And it'll have a link for you to log into the system and then change it. If you don't get that email, we'll talk about what you need to do when we're finishing up here today to register. As they said, you could either send an email, or there'll be a link and a QR code on the end of this PowerPoint that you could scan and do your registration from there. But again, you won't want to do that until the emails go out. And if you don't get an email out there by, say, end of day today, then you can go and register online. Okay, so let me get my screen shared here real quick. Okay, so anybody, like my screen should be up and running for you to be able to see it at this point.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so the way that it's going to work is you're going to get a URL that you'll be able to go to, and again, it'll either come from the email, or I believe they're going to send it out, and there's going to be a spot off of the Montgomery County website for you to through if you forget it or you don't bookmark it. What that will be, where it's on the site, I'm not sure quite yet. Maybe Mitch will know, or Marcy will know on that. But it won't be there until we get closer to the date.
I can let you know. Hi, Anthony. This is Janice, the communications director for the board, and it is on our site. If you visit the homepage, immediately below the menu and the slideshow, there are 4 buttons, and there is a yellow button, and it is labeled Provider Portal. So there you go. Yep.
Okay. So that'll take you right to where you need to log in. And again, you can obviously bookmark that for yourselves. So the username is always going to be your email address. Okay, and then you'll be keying in your password. If you forget your password, you'll just be able to click on that forgot reset password link, and it will be sent out to you, which you'll be able to change at that point. So again, just logging in. Now, what I'm going to be demonstrating through is going to look slightly different than the Montgomery County site, but all the functionality will actually be the same. It's just going to have a different logo on it. Okay. So once you log in, you're going to have basically 4 options up at the top. One for your account, which we'll show you here in a second, logging out, and home and the referral search are essentially the same. This will give you a listing of all of the referrals, the cases that are currently in the system for you to go out there and express an interest in. You'll be able to sort it based on the date that it was approved or the respond by date. Okay. You'll be able to filter it based on the service type. You'll be able to filter it on certain requirements, which I'll show you here in a second, or zip code. And by default, it is going to only show cases that your services that you're certified for yourselves, your provider itself. Okay. When you see the listing pop up, it's going to be color coded and it will have some icons on there to give you a brief overview as far as, hey, this particular case has special needs. So in this case, if it showed up with a listing that looked like this, you'll see there's one that has a red background. That's going to be one that should bubble up kind of to the top of your listings. And it's one that has been marked as it needs reviewed or responded to, as quickly as possible. Other listings you'll see just have a typical background on them. And if there is a service that will show up, a case that will show up that you are not certified for, it will show up in amber. Now, those will be hidden by default. Okay, and it's not something that you'll be able to respond to. I'll show you here in a second. But if it's something that you feel that you should, that's something that you'd be able to contact the board and they can give you permission to look at that. Again, noticing the icons that are here on various cases. Each one of those icons is going to have a special meaning. Okay, like the ear means special communication needs, wheelchair accessibility, and you can see there's several other types that will be available for you to just have a brief look to show special needs for any given case. Now, I think I went the wrong way. When you click on them, you'll also see that there's going to be the full details that will show up. Now, each one of the cases that you'll see can have different information that are presented in them. Okay, the different types of cases, different types of referrals that are in there will have different fields available for them. If it's something that you scroll through and you're interested in, you'll click on the I'm interested in button up at the top and it'll take you to another screen. Now, coming back to the system. So you can see here are a couple of different cases that are currently in there. The type is going to be the HPC, or say in this case, it's shared living. And you'll see the respond by date is there with the various icons. Okay. On the drop down for the service type, you'll see that you're able to change that and it will filter out the cases for just those particular services. So if I change this to just HPC, you only see that. I can also filter on the requirements, which again are the icons that you're seeing there. Okay, if I only wanted to see ones with special communication requirements or accessibility, I can click on that and you'll see that it's narrowed down to just that. And you're also able to filter by zip code as well. Now, notice here the icon, the option here for only showing certified services, that will be on by default. Okay, if I turn that off, you'll notice that a new one appears and it is amber. Okay, again, the amber ones mean that you are not certified for that particular case. If I click on that, you'll notice it's going to pop up and it's going to show you that there is basically a problem. You can't express interest in that particular case. You'll just have to contact the board if you feel that you are certified for that particular type. For any of the others, if I click on one of those cases, you'll see the full details will show up. Okay. So you'll see the SSA information on there, the response by date, the type, and you'll see the various information that was filled out by the SSA for what services are needed. And you can click on print if you wanted to print that off as well. So you can scroll down through the requirements. Okay, notice that this first section is for just individual information. Pretty much every case that will be in the system will have this individual information, the same information. Now, the fields that you'll see could be different based on input. So if this question was a yes, it might have more details underneath it for you to see. Okay. But in this case, this is an HPC, and you can see here are the HPC specific questions that will show up. And again, they could be slightly different based on the answers that were provided by the SSA. Okay. If we show interest, again, I'm just clicking on the I'm interested button. It will bring us to a screen that's going to say, hey, how soon can you provide that service? And then you're able to fill in some comments. Okay. Now, those comments are the best place for you to provide any type of specific information about you, okay, yourself, the provider, and services that you can provide. Basically, why should they choose you kind of thing. Okay. Once you fill that out, then it's a matter of clicking on respond to request. Oops, date. And what that will do is it's going to send off an email to the SSA, and it's going to say, hey, this provider has responded to this case, and it'll add up until they get further down in the process and we get beyond the respond by date, and then they'll be able to go through and choose the provider at that point. Okay. Now, so once the provider is chosen, okay, how it will work is you should get an automated email. Okay, plus, I'm sure that they'll reach out to you as well that says that you were chosen. If you were not chosen, you will still be contacted via email from Montgomery County saying, you know, that they chose to go with somebody else. So there will be notification whether you're chosen or not. So you'll be able to see that. Now, one of the things that was mentioned was, okay, you have to log into the system to be able to go and see cases that are available for you. Now, when you go to my account, you're able to change things like your first name, your last name, and your contact number if you need to. And you can also change your password if you feel like you need to change that. One tweak that can be made, and this would be something that you're not going to be able to change yourselves, but if there is a provider manager that gets entered in the system that can manage the users, you would be able to go and say that, hey, whenever the SSAs create a case in the system that matches my certifications, you can be emailed at that point in time. Okay, now that is not something that is going to be on by default for everybody, but it is something that can be adjusted. Otherwise, you would need to log into the system to see things that are available. Okay. Notice that now that we responded to that one, it is no longer showing in our list of things that we can respond to. Now, as I mentioned earlier, okay, you should get an email from the system, and it will look something like this, okay, if you're already in the system. So you get an email from servicerequest@montgomerycountyboardofdd.org, and it will tell you, hey, dear, you know, so-and-so, here's your login credentials, and you'll be asked to change it upon first login. So it'll show you your username, your password, and it will have a link. If you do not get that by end of day today, you can either email the board with your information like they suggested, or you'll be able to go in there and register yourself. Okay, let me show you what that form will look like. So the form would look like this, where you would key in your name, the contract number. It doesn't have an asterisk there, but that will be required. Okay, the first name, last name, email address, and a contact's phone number. Okay. This will go off to the board for them to approve you and add your certifications in there. And once they approve it, it will send an email off to whoever is keyed in here with access to the system. Okay, so that's an alternate way for you to register. If you want, you can also, again, scan this QR code and it will take you right to the URL for you to do your registration. Okay. All right, so that kind of my brief quick run through. So if anybody had any questions, I'd be glad to answer it for you.
One question I had, Anthony, is when a provider responds, you said it drops off. They can't see that service request again. Can they access a place on the portal that shows them all of the service requests they responded to that are outstanding?
That is something that's going to be added into the system. It's probably by the time you go live.
Okay, so that's coming soon.
Yes.
Great. Anybody else have questions today?
Yeah, I have a quick question. As it pertains to providers, how many staff members, i.e. administrators, can we have access to the portal when we register? Are we limited to just 1 or 2, or can we have 3? Anthony?
Oh, I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, when they do the registration, it's just going to be the one user. If they want to have multiple users, they can definitely have as many users as you want underneath a provider.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So it is unlimited, as many as want to register emails can.
But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, was that Trent that asked that question?
No,
Okay, I'm not sure.
It was Richard.
It was Richard.
Okay, because I can only see so many people. There would be one primary person, and then underneath that primary person, they could assign any number of users,
Right,
correct?
so our DOO can assign 2 users. That's what we normally have, that have access to type of information.
Was I
Yeah.
correct in that, Anthony?
So I'm sorry. I didn't understand the last question that was asked, but as far as what you asked me, Marcy, they cannot designate themselves as a provider manager, but you can give them an additional level of permission where they can go in there and they can add however many users they want to themselves.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, as far as that second question was concerned, I didn't quite hear it.
No, I think that was it. As a DOO, I can go in, register, and then if I wanted to add 2 more recipients, then I can add them under once I'm registered with their email address.
Yes, so the board would have to change your permission level to be a provider manager, and they'll know how to do that. And once that's the case, you will get an additional option in the system to be able to add and manage as many users as you want at that point.
and to clarify too, the administrators of the portal will be Christy Boer. Yeah, I don't know how you know Christy. She currently manages all of our service requests. And then Marcy Slipko. Marcy will be an administrator. Christy's primary, but Marcy will always be able to help. And then Rebecca Larson. They're all members of the Marcy's team. So we'll have a few people that can help you. That way there'll always be somebody around if you need any help. Or if you have questions. So as you go through this process, and then you can always email me or call me too. I'm just not an administrator in the system. Listen, you have your hand up.
Yes.
Did you have a question? Yeah,
Yes.
go for it.
Does all independent providers have to be access to this portal?
If you want to see service requests, you will need to request it and get access to it. If you're not looking for service requests, you don't have to subscribe to the portal. You don't ever have to get on it if you're not looking for new services.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? It really is meant to be very user-friendly. It'll be a better system than what we have where you get all these emails for every service, whether you want it or not. You'll be able to weed that down. So, and be able to see what's out there at all times.
Yeah, so this is what the provider managers would see. They would be able to add their own users into the system. Okay, they would have an additional menu option that would be on here. But again, by default, they would not have that permission. Somebody from Montgomery County would have to add that to them.
No, we can do that.
And how do we request that additional add-on?
Just send an email to Marcy and she can take care of it.
Thank you.
Sure.
This reminds me of my new phone I just got yesterday.
Oh,
Last week. I hated it, but I got used to
Right. No, this will be a better system. It'll just take a little bit of time. And anytime, if anybody has problems or questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll help you through the process. And if we don't know the answer, we can always get a hold of Anthony.
Yep.
Just so you know, we had an SSA this morning who thought the system was up and running already, and he submitted a service request through the system. And I had to send him an email, say, no, you got to do it the old fashioned way. But my question to him was, how did you find the system to be on their end? And he said it was very user-friendly, and it was very easy to navigate. So hopefully you will find the same thing on your end. So the whole
any other-
purpose behind it was to help eliminate the email overflow of all the service requests that we send out. And that way, you know, we've got so many, and we ran into issues where if we would send out a certain number, sometimes it would bounce back as spam, and the browser would not allow it to go through, and you may not have gotten all of the service requests that actually went out. So this then is going to guarantee that, you know, it is out there for you to view. You then can take a look at it if you choose to. The one thing that we've been asked to stress is that if you don't think that you can meet the individual's needs as identified in the service plan, don't respond that you're interested, because that just kind of then puts more on the plate of the SSAs to try and then thin it out some more. So if you can, you know, do that, it's going to be a learning process. It's going to be a work in progress. We're all learning it. But we think that there's going to be a lot of beneficial things to it. The one thing that we are looking forward to is the fact that a lot of times we will get emails back saying, well, is this service request still open? This then will close the loop. Once a service a provider is chosen, everybody who replied, and if they were not chosen, will receive an email saying, basically, thank you for your interest, but another provider has been chosen at this time. We're in the process of developing the verbiage for that, but that will then close the loop for everyone. It'll close the loop for us. It will close the loop for you so that you know what is open and what is not open. So we're going to have the ability to run reports and get information, and it's a very good system. That's my plug for you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. Anthony, anything else? We've got a training with Amber for the meeting too that we're going to need to move on to. And if you do have more questions, please just email me, email Marcy, and we will answer those questions for you. So I think that's all for this today. Thank you so much, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Sure. All right. Thanks, guys.